shows is Dr. Bonnie Kwok, Principal Urban Designer and Youth Engagement Lead at Greater Cambridge Shared Planning Service. You sort of change your name slightly, haven't you? Bonnie is the youth, as I say, Youth Engagement Lead. Provides bespoke design workshops to enable children and young people to have a genuine input into design and town planning process. They get to learn about development proposals in their local areas, develop design skills, and build capacity and confidence to partake in their community consultations. Bonnie has over 20 years' experience in youth engagement, architecture, urban design, and town planning in private and public sectors. Are passionate about youth engagement, and this has resulted in development of a youth engagement framework as part of her PhD research. This framework is well received by services users and is used to inform the Cambridge youth engagement work. Welcome, you've done an extraordinary amount over the years, and I'm sure we're going to have some great insights from you, from your practical experience from it. So I'll let you take over and share the screen.
Thank you, Victoria.
It should be able to be at the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, it's not full screen. Yes, it's now full screen. That's, I think, yes, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so today's topic is obligations. So it was really insightful to hear other speakers to talk about the challenges, but also successful examples of engaging people, young people. And so I thought it'd be good for me to share the Greater Cambridge experience. I thought it will be useful for me to talk about the context and also who we are. So the Greater Cambridge Shared Planning Youth Engagement Service, yes, we provide a wide range of youth engagement services for the local community, developers, and everyone. So we have the Have Your Say program, for example, which aims to ensure children and young people have a strong voice in housing, office developments, public realm, public art projects, etc. Our Work Experience program aims to offer children, primarily in year 9 and 10, to come to the council office and get practical experience in architecture, urban design, town planning, and landscape design. Usually it's a 2-week work experience program, and the aim is to encourage them to consider pursuing a career in the built and natural environment. We also do a lot of outreach projects where we go to schools or community halls to give career talks and to run capacity building exercises to help children to build a confidence to speak in public environments so they can express their views in confidence and more effectively. The context for youth engagement, I think, is quite important for us to understand, and I'm sure we all know about the United Nations Youth Strategy 2030 and the Brundtland Report back in 1987, which talks about the 3 pillars of a sustainable development. In the NPPF, which was updated in September this year, paragraphs 132 and 133 talks about the importance of community engagement. Corporately, in Greater Cambridge, we have the South Cambs Code of Governance and also the Planning Department's planning objectives. Development, for developers, it clearly aligns with their CSR, which is corporate social responsibility, and it also helps them to comply with any council statement of community involvement. In Greater Cambridge context, we have 5-year housing land supply. Historically, we had that issue, but we also have a lot of greenbelt sites and conservation areas where youth engagement has been playing a key role in getting buy-in and support. It is a great team that I have. Here you can see in the picture, here are my team members. Last year, I won the individual Youth Engagement Practitioner Award organized by the Fountain Education Trust. And here are my team members. So Victoria is on the left-hand side with Maxine, myself, Amar, Tom Davis, and also our service manager, Jane Green. And that's really a good confidence boost to our team, and it helps add credentials to the work that we do. We were also shortlisted for the School Collaboration and Social Value Awards. So Victoria asked me to focus on obligation. I thought it'd be nice to talk about, for Greater Cambridge, why it's important that there's this obligation. So research has shown that, particularly for Greater Cambridge, there is an underrepresentation of people of colour, young people, and those who do not own homes in the planning process. So their views have not been fully reflected in new developments. So as a result of this, the Greater Cambridgeshire Planning come up with a few things to help address this, such as holding consultations in youth clubs where children can get to easily. When it comes to policy consultation, is to make sure that it's user-friendly, it uses simple words and not using planning jargons. And something that I'm very proud of is that it formalized the youth engagement service in 2023, in this year. It started as a pilot project since 2017. So we're 7 years old. But the formal, in terms of formally being adopted, it's this year. To date, YES has successfully reached out to over 16 schools, benefited over 1,000 children, ensuring that their views are genuinely reflected in development proposals. You can see some really nice pictures here showing the children were really excited in the youth engagement workshops. They were really enthusiastic about taking part in having a say in the development proposals. And they were really good artists, came up with lots of drawings and ideas for new developments. So the next page talks about, is it a policy requirement? And yes, absolutely. And adults must listen to and pay attention to as well. So as I said, in the NPPF, the two policies that have a hook that we can refer to when it comes to us asking developers to work with us to engage the children are on the yellow text here. So paragraph 132 talks about the importance of engaging local community, and also applicants, i.e. developers, they should work closely with those affected by proposals, and children are affected by it most because they will live longer than any of us. And also, applications that can demonstrate early engagement will be looked on more favorably. I think that's really important. So we need to make that message really loud and clear to developers. Paragraph 133 talks about local planning authorities should ensure they have access to tools to engage the local community to improve planning outcome, to help create better designs. These include workshops to engage local community. So in Greater Cambridge, we have the Youth Engagement Service to do that with young people. And this page talks about locally what we do. So we're in the process of updating our SCI, Statement of Community Involvement. So we recognize that in 2020, the government published a white paper, which is called Planning for Future. So it talks about streamlining the process, which can be a little bit scary. But the good thing is it also talks about the importance of LPAs, local planning authorities, to improve engagement with people through different means, through, for example, digital technology. But that gives impetus to us as a local planning authority to seek approval from councillors to allocate resources, sufficient resources for community engagement, which includes youth engagement. So with our emerging SCI, it sets out how we will consult and engage with the public. It also talks about what we expect the developers to do. Here highlighted in the yellow text talks about the importance of using our service. So this SCI is read by most developers or planning agents who are submitting planning applications. So I think it's quite a powerful paragraph to be included. So I'm really pleased with that. And I think other local planning authorities, if you're in the process of updating your SCI, perhaps you can include a paragraph in there to strengthen the reason for youth engagement. You don't need to have a youth engagement team if you can have access to other external organizations. But it's quite a powerful paragraph to add to the SCI. The next page talks about, is it a policy requirement that children and young people's views must be given weight? Absolutely. So in Greater Cambridge, we actually, after the youth engagement workshop, we include that in the planning condition. So earlier this week, we went to a village in Cambridge called Falmere, where we worked collaboratively with the developer, with the local councillors, with the school children, the teachers, to design something for the development, which is a research and development laboratory office development. The promoter is Gen2, so it's a London-based developer. They're really keen to work with us. It's called Project Alchemy. And so A is quite an important word. So we asked the children to design the A, as you can see here. And through a design competition, the winning entries, so with the winning design will be incorporated in the building facade and to help ensure that children's designs are included as part of the architecture. And the picture below, you see some street furniture. So Falmere, the village Falmere is to do with, it's got an RSPB, so it's got lots of birds. So the children came up with some wonderful design about birds in the street furniture. And again, the furniture design were very creative, and the winning designs will be built and delivered on site subject to planning approval. And here is the wording in the yellow text, which includes street furniture, artwork, play equipment, signs, etc. in the planning conditions. So it's quite strong in terms of our stance. And later on, when the scheme is approved, this will be considered when it comes to discharge of condition, we will then further work with the developers to finalize the how it can be these can be turned into technical drawings for submission, and thereby streamlining the planning approval process. This slide talks about the importance of children and young people involved in making decisions. So in that regard, yes, the answer is yes, it's really important. And it's really important to get elected district councillors in the planning process, because they are democratically elected, so they represent the community. And in Greater Cambridge, our councillors are very supportive of youth engagement. And they've even set up a group called the Young People Task and Finish Group to look at how councillors can better engage the children and young people in Greater Cambridge. And so because of the buy-in from councillors, we are able to demonstrate to developers that our planning committee members, councillors, really give weight to children's voices. So it's important to invite, if you do have youth engagement activities, do invite councillors to come along and to support you. They can see the positive benefits that we're delivering, and it also makes the children feel that they're quite important, because we have councillors coming along. So here the two pictures give you some idea of some of our youth engagement activities working with councillors. So power sharing is really important. If we look at Einstein 1969's ladder of engagement, I think we should always consider children place them on the top rung of the ladder. That youth engagement is about actively ensuring that they have a voice, instead of the bottom rung, which is often the case, which is more token, more about information dissemination. We do not want that. We want children to have a genuine voice. So power sharing is really important. And what can be done about this? In Greater Cambridge, we have asked planning officers to include the youth engagement report after each youth engagement exercise. So this report should be attached to any planning committee report, which will be read by everyone, including decision makers such as members of the planning committee, to show them that the schemes have gone through a robust youth engagement process. So that is one way to help ensure that children's voices are heard and there's equal power in all key stakeholders. Here, just a very quick view of the youth engagement framework. So Victoria kindly mentioned about this youth engagement framework that we use in Greater Cambridge. So we often give this to developers to show that it is a very established team, very experienced, and it considers all these 4 key factors to help achieve positive planning outcome. I think I should give you a summary. What worked well in our youth engagement is to have a very robust process, and the process supports children's development. It has helped build trust and consensus. The use of technology is important, but they can be very simple technologies, such as just use forms such as Google Forms to do some surveys, or to use, if you want to do some site visits, you don't always have to do in-person site visits. You can do online site visits by just showing a video on YouTube. So you can use very simple technology to get very effective results. What can be further improved for us? I think better resources. I think most speakers have mentioned this. We're quite fortunate that the cost is recovered by asking developer for fee to cover the cost of materials, refreshments, prices, and also officer time. But obviously, we need to make a convincing case. So I think we're quite successful in sort of showcasing that. We must make sure that it aligns with policy as well. We need to have a stronger focus on children's mental health and well-being, and I think outdoor learning is key. So we're trying to incorporate more of that, and also encourage youth engagement. The wording actually of requiring youth engagement in the next MPPF perhaps, and in the next Greater Cambridge local plan, and we are already doing this in the SCI, which I'm quite pleased about. So here are the 6 key takeaways. Successful youth engagement with regards to obligation require sufficient resources, clear alignment with policy, which is like national policy and local planning policy. We need to have a structural approach towards youth engagement. So ideally you have a framework so that it can be replicated every time. Partnership working is important. We need to respect children's views. And it's not about them learning from us, but us learning from them as well. Successful youth engagement need to have a project base, feedback at all levels, and more importantly is to celebrate success, be a reflective practitioner, be a reflective youth engagement team, and always try to see what can be done better through a continuous improvement approach. I've got some questions for you highlighted in green. So take a look and see what you think. So that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. That's, I have to say, extremely thorough as well. Thank you. I'm sure a lot of councils would really appreciate having something like that, especially not having to go through it to reinvent the wheel every time. I think that's one of the kind of key things if one is going down a particular route, to sort of do lessons learned from everybody else, because there's so many similarities as we talked about earlier. So I think one question just before we open to Q&A, and also from the other panel, please come online. And so I'm sure there's questions you want to ask Bonnie as well. But you're saying it's seven years to go through, which in one sense is not a long time. But I suppose a real question I think a lot be asking is, how did you achieve it? I mean, what were the kind of key drivers or successes that enabled this to be formally adopted? How did you do it, I think, is the question.
Yes. In short, 4 words: go the extra mile. But yeah, so how did I do it? It's really hard work, I have to say. It's a very long journey. Um, I had to sort of initiate it. So I think you require some people. I think all of the speakers in this room would experience the same thing, which is you will always get skepticals along the way. They will raise issues about resources. I think first and foremost, there will also be people that think that youth engagement can be a barrier to the planning process because it takes longer time. So you need to make a convincing case every time. And how did I do it? I started with some pilot projects. I went to school by myself and then asked, well, I was working as a planning officer. So I went to schools and asked the children about the thoughts on planning, on development proposals, mainly on areas that they have sort of a key interest in, such as play areas design, for example. And it's through trial and error. So some of them were not very vocal, some of them are quite vocal. Then how do you make sure that you give them the best chance to speak? How do I make sure I use simple language and really use more pictures and graphics to engage them? And then more important is to demonstrate to the developer that the youth engagement can really get community buy-in and councillors to sort of look at your proposals more favorably. And planning process is always quite long as well, particularly with larger projects. So I think you need to be patient and you need to keep working on it. And every time when you have a successful outcome or not successful outcome, you reflect on it. And then you need to sort of do a lot of lobbying with all the key people in the process, such as councillors, such as parish councillors, such as schools, children, the teachers, the parents. So if you can do some feedback and collect all the positive feedback and explain to senior management why it's important, I think it's more likely you can get support to form a youth engagement service or get some funding to get a youth engagement liaison officer for the council.
Yeah, thank you.